Let me share something about love and relationships that many people overlook. There will be times when the person you care about, someone who once showered you with messages or seemed genuinely interested, suddenly goes silent. In these moments, confusion can creep in. You might wonder if you said something wrong or if you somehow pushed them away. Yet what if this quiet spell is not necessarily about you? What if this is a revealing moment that can teach you more about yourself than about them? When a partner or someone you hope to date chooses distance over conversation, it often exposes how comfortable they are with real intimacy. It also reflects how secure we are when we're left without immediate validation. Sometimes, we place too much of our self-worth in another person's hands, especially when we're invested in blossoming romance. We attach deep meaning to replies, emoticons, and the frequency of messages. So when that flow is disrupted, our mind spins with what-ifs. What if they're losing interest? What if I'm not good enough? What if someone else has captured their attention? But take a step back. This pause can serve as an opportunity to understand your own emotional resilience. A temporary lapse in communication doesn't have to define your worth. You can choose to remain confident in who you are, regardless of anyone else's momentary silence. Look at it this way. If someone's ignoring you or pulling away without explanation, it's a sign of how they cope with challenges or emotional fluctuations. Sometimes, they might be busy or wrestling with personal issues. Other times, this is a hint at immaturity or an attempt to gauge how you'll react. In any case, it can be a gift. Why? Because it hands you a mirror, allowing you to see your own reactions clearly. Do you scramble for their attention, or do you carry on with your life, unshaken in your sense of self? Understanding this about yourself can become a powerful foundation for future relationships. 005 now. Let's delve into why someone might suddenly tune you out in the first place. Relationships are complex because we're all shaped by different backgrounds and experiences. Some people need reassurance and frequent communication. Others require more space. If a woman you like is ignoring you, she may be sorting through personal concerns or testing the waters to see if you're the type who panics at the slightest shift. Her reasons may be tied to past hurts, fear of rejection, or a desire to see how much control she can have over your emotions. When we talk about destroying someone's ego, it's easy to misinterpret that as seeking vengeance or playing mind games. But what if we recast that phrase to mean you're no longer feeding someone's need to feel powerful at your expense? By refusing to react with desperation or self-doubt, you detach from any attempt to manipulate your feelings. You offer respect, but you also hold onto your dignity. You show, through calm composure, that you aren't defined by the presence or absence of their text messages or calls. This isn't vengeful. It's simply holding on to your self-respect. Although it might sound bold, removing the power another person has over your emotional state can be immensely attractive. People are drawn to those who maintain dignity and purpose. So when the question arises, why is she ignoring me? The better question might be, what can I do to stay balanced, confident, and secure? By focusing on yourself, your goals, your interests, your personal growth, you exhibit a level of self-assurance. Ironically, this self-assurance often reawakens the interest of the very person who has withdrawn. It's not about toying with someone's feelings. It's about understanding that healthy love grows strongest when nurtured by two equally whole individuals, neither dependent on the other for worth. One of the best ways to respond when someone ignores you is to make choices that reaffirm your value and composure. Instead of sending a barrage of messages, take a moment to breathe. Reflect on where you stand in your own life. Ask yourself if your happiness was solely hinged on this person's attention. If yes, it's time to broaden your horizons. Try a new hobby, spend time with friends, or invest in a passion that ignites your curiosity. Every relationship, especially one that's still developing, calls for two well-rounded partners. When you feel a gap, fill it with personal growth. Many people panic when communication stops. They might lose sleep or sink into anxious overthinking. However, consider the power of doing the unexpected. simply allowing the silence to exist. Let that person realize you won't chase them down. Show that you have a life filled with meaning, even without their immediate acknowledgement. This approach isn't about being cold. It's about respecting yourself and demonstrating you're not at the mercy of someone else's whims. Such an outlook can actually lead to healthier interactions because the other person is reminded that you won't be an accessory. They'll see you as someone capable of enriching their life, not just waiting around. The mystery of minimal reaction is surprisingly compelling. When people sense you're not desperate to get them back on the line, they start questioning their own emotional distance. They wonder if they might lose someone who values respect and equality within a relationship. In a genuine partnership, both individuals hold each other in high regard. They choose to communicate in ways that foster connection, not confusion. If someone continually withholds communication, you might ask yourself if this pattern aligns with the mature, fulfilling love you seek. Sometimes, letting someone go or giving them space can be the best way to honor your standards and set the bar for how you want to be treated. Let's address the psychology behind why ignoring someone can feel so painful. We all crave reassurance that we matter, that we're needed and appreciated. When someone ignores you, it can feel like a blow to those fundamental desires. The discomfort arises not just from the lack of words, but from the sense that you're being excluded. The silence can amplify fears of not being good enough. The key is to recognize that these fears aren't always grounded in reality. Silence may say more about their current mindset than about your qualities or worth. The worst mistake you can make is to see this as a signal to spiral into self-criticism. Indeed, a brief pause in communication might reflect external pressures the other person is facing. In other cases, you might be dealing with someone who is intentionally creating distance to measure your reaction. Whether it's a test or a genuine need for space, your best response is confidence rooted in self-awareness. By understanding that your value doesn't waver with someone's attention, you remain poised. This stance often deflates any power play. It also guides you toward people who appreciate connection and authenticity over sporadic messages. Ironically, the more you cling to someone's silence by chasing them, the more likely they are to pull away further. Needing constant reassurance can come across as insecurity, which typically doesn't foster mutual respect. Instead, reframe your thinking. See silence as their problem to solve. If they have something going on, they can share it when ready. If they're trying to gain the upper hand by withholding replies, you remind yourself that genuine love doesn't thrive on manipulative tactics. In short, you learn to be at peace with the unknown, trusting that those who truly value you will find their way back to open communication. And those who don't, they teach you how to cultivate self-reliance and unwavering self-esteem. We often hear the advice, don't chase, attract. While it might sound cliché, there's truth in it. When you're busy living a full life, pursuing your ambitions, nurturing friendships, exploring your creativity, you exude an energy that is magnetic. This authenticity can be far more impactful than a dozen "Hey, are you okay?" texts or midnight calls seeking an explanation for someone's vanishing act. People notice when you're committed to your purpose and well-being. Picture it like this. If you stop shining your light whenever someone steps out of your spotlight, you're dimming your essence for others' approval. But if you keep your light shining, keep striving, keep learning, keep finding joy in the everyday, those who are meant to share in that warmth will be drawn to it. They'll appreciate that you're more than a reactive presence, waiting for them to snap their fingers. You become someone with depth and drive, and that in itself can resurrect their curiosity if they initially took you for granted. When we speak about destroying the ego in the context of romantic tension, it's really about disarming the dynamic where someone might try to control your emotional state. It's less about destroying and more about balancing. If someone's ignoring you to feed their own sense of power, your confidence becomes an equalizer. By not falling apart in the face of silence, you show them that your self-worth is not subject to external fluctuation. You're not playing the same game they are. Ultimately, Relationships flourish when both parties stand on equal ground, free from manipulative power plays. Let's discuss the value of acceptance. In any new or long-standing romantic connection, you cannot force someone's attention. Trying to do so can lead to exhausting cycles of drama and disappointment. Instead, accept that people come with their own timelines, emotional baggage, and communication styles. Acceptance here means you understand you can't control how often someone texts or calls. You can only choose how you handle that reality. By calmly acknowledging what you can't change, you free yourself from the frustration of trying to bend someone's actions to your will. Once you accept that their silence is their choice, you open the door to your own freedom. You learn to pivot attention back to yourself, your growth, your passions, your emotional balance. This self-focused approach is not selfishness. It's self-preservation. It's what keeps you from drifting into desperation or negative self-talk. When you approach romance from a place of wholeness, you're better positioned to judge whether someone else's behaviors align with your vision of a healthy relationship. Acceptance also grants you the patience to see if their behavior is temporary or part of a pattern that undermines genuine intimacy. On the flip side, acceptance doesn't mean you settle for being treated poorly or endlessly ignored. If someone's pattern is to ghost you repeatedly, you might decide it's not the level of connection you want. Through acceptance, you become an observer of how they treat you, and you trust yourself to walk away when their silence is clearly disrespectful or manipulative. This sense of self-respect acts like a magnet for healthier dynamics. You don't rely on illusions. You rely on facts. Consistent behavior, open communication, and mutual respect are the hallmarks of a relationship worth nurturing. Consider the power of a little strategic distance, sometimes referred to as reverse psychology. Although we don't want to reduce love to manipulative tactics, there's something to be said about doing the unexpected in a relationship. Typically, if someone ignores us, we chase them for answers. But what happens if we gracefully do the opposite? If we simply continue on our path, letting them be the first to reestablish contact? Often, curiosity sparks within them. They wonder why you're not acting like everyone else. This method stems from showing that your emotional world doesn't revolve around immediate responses. You neither panic nor succumb to resentment. Instead, you keep your stride, focusing on things that uplift you, your passions, social life, and personal goals. This approach isn't about vengeance. It's about knowing you're more than a string of unread messages. It also subtly reminds them that if they want to be part of your life, they'll have to come forward on their own. You're not chasing anyone down a path of uncertainty. Strangely enough, this approach can reveal true intentions. Someone who genuinely cares might realize they miss your presence, and that taking you for granted was a mistake. If, however, they never circle back or show any concern for your well-being, that itself is a telling answer. You deserve someone who values honest communication, not mind games or erratic messages. By being steadfast in your own life, you naturally sift out those who aren't ready for a stable, loving bond. Your time and energy should go to people who see your worth without you having to shout it from the rooftops. Another essential element is continual self-improvement. When communication grows cold, it's tempting to dwell on what the other person is doing. Instead, channel that energy into yourself. Dive into hobbies that intrigue you. Dedicate extra time to your fitness routine, or explore creative outlets. In a healthy relationship, your partner appreciates your evolving sense of self. Each step you take toward becoming a more fulfilled individual enhances the quality of love you can offer in the future. When you focus on personal growth, you create a life so enriching that whether they text back or not becomes less of a central issue. Your sense of satisfaction no longer hinges on one person's momentary attention. You might start noticing improvements in your career because you're less distracted by emotional roller coasters. You may find your relationships with family and friends improving because you're channeling your efforts into building deeper, more dependable bonds. The strength you cultivate spreads into all facets of your life. A beneficial outcome of self-improvement is often a burst in confidence. Confidence helps you evaluate your relationships More objectively, if a person's pattern is to draw close, then disappear, you'll see that with greater clarity. You realize you want a supportive companion, someone who respects your journey and is willing to share theirs too. You begin to prefer communication that's honest and consistent, rather than anxiety-inducing guesswork. Improving yourself is not only good for you, it's the best filter against time wasters and those who merely want to toy with your heart. Let's talk about boundaries, which are crucial in romantic contexts. When someone repeatedly ignores you, it can create an unbalanced dynamic. You might feel compelled to chase, or you might slip into self-blame. Clear boundaries mean you decide how you want to be treated. If consistent communication is important to you, you don't have to accept unexplained silences as the norm. You can diplomatically make your needs known. If they can't respect that, it may be time to reassess the connection. Healthy boundaries aren't about rigid rules. They're about mutual respect and clarity. For instance, if unexplained silence makes you uncomfortable, you can express that calmly. I understand if you need some time, but I'd appreciate a heads up next time. If they respond well, this can open channels for better understanding. If they dismiss your feelings or act offended that you even brought it up, that's a sign of deeper issues in how they handle emotional honesty. Setting a standard for how you're treated doesn't make you demanding. It makes you someone who values open, considerate communication. The true benefit of boundaries is peace of mind. You won't endlessly worry why they vanished if they know your stance on communication. You also grant them the choice to step up or to step aside. This fosters healthier discussions, fewer misunderstandings, and a more genuine atmosphere. By being clear about your boundaries, you're also clarifying your identity. You're someone who is worthy of respect, someone who respects others, and someone who thrives on transparency rather than emotional guesswork. In all matters of the heart, it's vital to remember that love and partnership are privileges, not entitlements. If you believe you deserve genuine affection, consistent communication, and mutual respect, hold true to those beliefs. There's no need to adapt to patterns that leave you feeling unsettled or diminished. While relationships require compromise, they shouldn't come at the cost of your emotional health. Ignoring behavior that's intentionally manipulative or negligent only leads to deeper layers of hurt. Recognizing that you have the right to step away from someone who routinely disregards your feelings is a hallmark of emotional maturity. This doesn't mean you never give second chances or show patience. It means you keep track of repeated patterns. Is the silence a one-off glitch during a stressful time, or is it a habitual way they handle conflict or boredom? The more you observe calmly, the better you can distinguish temporary setbacks from fundamental incompatibilities. Standing up for what you need in a relationship can be intimidating, especially if you fear abandonment. Yet, genuine love stands in admiration when you draw the line. Partners with healthy mindsets respect someone who knows what they want and gently insists on receiving that level of respect back. In contrast, those who are only looking for control might drift away, frustrated they can't manipulate you. In this sense, silence, even from those not meant for you, can be a stepping stone toward a love that truly resonates with your core values. Ultimately, dealing with silence in love is about turning inward and reinforcing the foundation of who you are. You do not have to measure your value by how promptly someone replies, nor do you need to chase validation from people who cannot see your worth. Instead, devote your energy to activities that refine your perspective and nurture your spirit. If you're consistently centered, someone else's inconsistent communication won't throw you off balance for long. You will acknowledge it, learn from it, and then continue on your path with grace. This doesn't mean you become callous or indifferent. Genuine love remains vulnerable and real. What changes is your reaction to unpredictability. You might express your concerns once or twice, but if the silence persists, you pivot back to your own well-being. Your life is an ensemble of many moving parts: career, friendships, personal growth, family, and the ways you contribute to the world. No single relationship dynamic should overshadow all the other beautiful and productive elements of your existence. Always remember, Real love thrives on mutual respect, communication, and empathy. Sometimes, ignoring someone is just a passing lapse, easily resolved when both people open up. Other times, it reveals deeper fractures in compatibility or emotional intelligence. Either way, you retain the power to choose how much weight you give to these moments of quiet. Your heart might ache, but it also holds remarkable resilience. It can learn and adapt, seeking healthier forms of connection every step of the way. If you felt that sting of being ignored, use it to fuel a positive transformation. Perhaps it's time to reconnect with friends you've lost touch with while you were preoccupied with romance. Or maybe you'll dive deeper into your hobbies. Who knows what hidden talents or joys you might unearth when you shift your focus. Each day offers a chance to harness your creativity, deepen your compassion, and cultivate relationships that pour warmth back into your life. Yes, receiving a late-night text after days of silence can feel validating. But ask yourself, is a pattern of hot and cold truly fulfilling, or is it draining? Genuine love is not about sporadic surges of attention. It's about consistent effort and genuine care. If someone treats you as though you're easily replaceable or only valuable when convenient, it's time to reassess. In a healthy bond, each person feels seen and supported most of the time, not just when it suits the other person's mood. By redirecting your time and emotional energy toward people and ventures that consistently bring joy, you shift from a space of longing to one of abundance. This doesn't mean shutting your heart off. It means nurturing it more wisely. After all, heartbreak or disappointment is often a catalyst for self-discovery. It can reveal unacknowledged strengths and open doors to connections that genuinely honor who you are. And once you tap into that self-discovery, you're less likely to let emotional inconsistency dictate your sense of peace. Overcoming the emotional turmoil of being ignored also involves a willingness to communicate directly once you sense a repeated pattern. If the person resurfaces, you can politely and calmly ask for clarity. Avoid accusations. Instead, share how the silence affected you. A person who cares about you might apologize or explain, offering a genuine reason for their disappearance. But if their response is dismissive or vague, that gives you important insight into whether this is someone capable of building a healthy relationship. Talking openly about communication needs can be awkward at first, particularly if you're worried about appearing demanding. Yet in the realm of love, clarity paves the way for growth. You can even phrase it kindly. I appreciate hearing from you, and I'd love to avoid such long silences in the future. Is there a better way we can keep each other in the loop? Healthy individuals will see such honesty as a chance to strengthen trust. Others might see it as confrontation, which may confirm their aversion to real intimacy. Should you find that they dismiss your attempt at resolution, try to see it not as personal failure but as redirection. Sometimes, relationships don't progress simply because the two individuals are at different stages of readiness or emotional maturity. That realization can be freeing. It helps you move on without resentment, knowing you extended genuine effort to understand and be understood. In the end, good communication is the heartbeat of lasting love. If they can't meet you halfway, you're better off reserving your emotional vitality for someone who can. As we reach a close, remember that being ignored is often an invitation to grow stronger and more self-aware. It gives you a chance to test your reactions. Do you panic or do you respond with grace? Do you lose your sense of self or affirm it by focusing on self-care and personal dreams? The healthiest mindset acknowledges that love is a choice two people make over and over again, not a puzzle one person is forced to solve alone. Keep your door open to meaningful affection. While you won't chase fleeting interests, you remain receptive to those who show you honesty and consistency. Over time, these episodes of silence become less daunting because you trust your ability to navigate them. Each heartbreak, each moment of confusion, is just one more lesson guiding you toward authenticity. And in that authenticity, you discover that you are enough, with or without someone else's immediate attention. So, if you find yourself on the receiving end of a silent phone or lukewarm replies, breathe. Refocus on what enriches your life and proceed with confidence. Know that you're actively cultivating a strong sense of worth, independent of external whims. Surround yourself with people who appreciate clear communication and emotional integrity. And when the right person does step in, someone who recognizes the value of mutual respect, you will both reap the rewards of a bond founded on understanding, not on guesswork or emotional games.